let's look at some videos and pictures from the utter chaos in Charlottesville this weekend. First, I'm going to show you what some of the chants were at the event. Okay, so they were chanting "White Lives Matter" and "Fuck you faggots" at counter-protesters. Let's also take a look at some of the scary photographs here. Yes, that is not only a Confederate flag, but it is directly next to a Nazi flag. Yeah. You know what I always find amazing about these things is that when you look at like the people who are holding the Confederate flag, you know, a lot of that you'll often hear, oh, heritage, not hate, heritage, not hate. Well, apparently for this person, it is hate as well, because it's not like they see the guy with the Nazi flag and they're offended. They look at the guy with the Nazi flag and they're like, yeah, he's on our team. He's with us. Like, do these people not understand that, you know, the United States and Nazi Germany were enemies and were on opposite sides of the war, and that there were 400,000 Americans in the U.S. Army who died fighting Nazi Germany? And do you not realize that you are, you know, literally besmirching their names and their record and the history by, I mean, how is it that these are also the same people who like to claim the mantle of being the most American? The far right. They're the most patriotic, most American. So why is it in your crowd, in your team, there's the flag of Nazi Germany, who are our sworn enemies, who killed 400,000 Americans, who the Axis powers killed 400,000 Americans? How do you not get that disconnect? How do you not get that the Confederate flag is literally the flag of being a traitor to the United States of America? We don't want to be with you anymore because you won't let us own human beings. And by the way, the history of that particular Confederate flag is interesting, because that's not the original Confederate flag. That Confederate flag came out in the 1960s, in 1961, I think, to be exact. And the reason why they brought that one out is not only the Southern pride thing, but also because that was the height of the civil rights movement. And there was a pushback against segregation. And so that flag represented the pro-segregationist side of the divide. So that's exactly what that represents. That's what these people want. And they have, those are the flags of two traitors. Hey, I agree with the people who killed 400,000 Americans, and never mind the actual fucking genocide and Holocaust they did. And I agree with the people who wanted to leave the United States of America because you didn't let them keep slaves, own human beings. Okay, let me show you another picture. This one I think is, it's obviously both super fucked up, but also a little funny too, because, look, no disrespect to any, like, you know, people who are into, like, Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or whatever, but, like, that's kind of what this looks like to me. Like, obviously these are hate-filled assholes, and the Lord of the Rings people are not, but it's almost like they're not, like, adults, is my point. Like, they look like children going to some sort of a convention and, like, playing dress-up. Like, look at me, I have my shield. Aren't I so cool? Like, no, you actually look like the biggest loser that ever walked the face of the earth. And by the way, that guy in the middle is the one with, like, the facial hair and the sunglasses who's directly in the middle there. He's the terrorist who ended up taking his car and driving over human beings, killing at least one 32-year-old woman. So that's a terrorist right there. This, by the way, I think is Vanguard America, a group that says, let me give you the exact quote again. This is their manifesto declares, a government based in natural law must not cater to the false notion of equality. That's what these people believe. And again, the irony of Vanguard America being amidst the same group as the people who wanted to leave America and were literal traitors, the Confederates, and the Nazis who killed 400,000 Americans. So you're not Vanguard America, you're the least American, not the most American. And just look, it looks like a bunch of fucking losers, man. It really does. Look, I'm wearing my helmet. Aren't I so cool? I bet women want to sleep with me. It's so fucking sad. Okay, now let's look at the next one here. This is going to be a picture that goes down in history right here, I think. I really do. I think there's going to be a picture that goes down in history. Because you have a black officer basically defending the rights of people who want to see him, at the very least, expelled from the country or just killed. Probably more likely killed because there's a literal KKK guy directly behind him. And you see people doing the Nazi salute also over his left shoulder. And then you could see on the sign there, I don't know, I can't read all of it, but it says, Jews are Satan's children. And then it goes through. So there's a guy who's clearly virulent anti-Semite there as well. By the way, this rally was called Unite the Right. You couldn't have worse PR for the right wing. It's called Unite the Right, and all like the dumbest, most hateful people show up. So this picture really is something special because it shows a black officer protecting the rights of people who despise him and would like to see him killed. That really is absolutely incredible. God, could you imagine being one of those people, man? And another chant that they did, by the way, so you heard White Lives Matter and fuck you faggots, but they also chanted, Jew will not replace us. Oh, man. White Lives Matter, they were chanting. I mean, think about it. And for people who think like, well, I mean, like, what's the problem with that? If they could chant Black Lives Matter, why can't they chant White Lives Matter? Think about the fact that the whole point, like, of doing what they were doing and being where they were, was they were protesting the taking down of a Confederate Robert E. Lee statue. A slave-owning trader who lost 152 years ago. They were like, okay, I think it might be time to take this down. They were putting it in a museum, I think, but they weren't going to like destroy it or whatever. But they were like, yeah, we're going to take this down because it shouldn't really be prominently placed anymore. I mean, this is a representative of American Nazism, a traitor. I want to own slaves, so we're going to, leave the U.S. We're going to secede. So that's why these guys were mad. They're mad because you're taking down the statue of a slave-owning traitor. And in response to this, they start chanting White Lives Matter. So look at that picture. Because that, in their mind, is oppression. That's how they think of that. You're oppressing me by taking down the statue of the slave-owning traitor. Man, that's amazing, because that really lets you tap into their mindset. Because their mindset is, if you don't let us dominate you, then you're oppressing us. Everything that Robert E. Lee, the Confederacy, what does this stand for? It stands for, man, wasn't it great when we were the only voice that was allowed in the debate? Wasn't that wonderful? But now you got to hear out like the fucking women and the minorities and black people and Mexican Americans. And man, wasn't it great when we were the only voice in the room and we got to call all the shots? So they feel triggered and they feel like they're oppressed when you take down a statue of a slave-owning traitor. And that's what led them to chant White Lives Matter. It wasn't that, hey, in the case of these people, their ancestors were slaves who were forcibly brought over here. It wasn't the case that there was segregation against their ancestors or their great-grandparents. It wasn't the case that there were Jim Crow laws against them. It's, oh my God, you're taking down a statue of a slave-owning trader. That's what triggers them. That's what makes them feel like they're being oppressed. I mean, ultimately, look, if that's what they think is oppression, tell me again who the snowflakes are. Who are the snowflakes? That's the biggest snowflake shit I've ever heard in my life. You're taking down a statue of a slave-owning trader, and so I'm so triggered by this microaggression that I'm going to go to the streets with fucking torches and chant, "White lives matter, white lives matter." And then the "fuck you faggots" thing was because counter-protesters were there, and they were chanting that at them. Yeah, way to make an intellectual argument for your side, guys. "Fuck you faggots" being your chant, being your go-to chant. I thought it was heritage, not hate. That's what I thought. I thought you guys cared about heritage, not hate. Apparently not. Oh, it's just... Final point. Isn't it amazing that... This is a point many people have made previously. I've made it previously. Isn't it amazing that the people who claim to be from the master race at these rallies are also the worst examples of that? I saw a great, cartoon about it, where it's like you got all these, racist, openly racist protesters gathering, Nazis, KKK people, and another guy's yelling at them like, why is it that whenever it's people saying they're part of the master race, they're the worst examples? And then he's screaming at the guys like, where the fuck is your chin? Because the guy who's protesting has no chin, looks just like a fucking nebbish, dweeby white person. But that's so true. You see all these old, out of shape people, probably loaded up on Percocet because they got back problems. They got fucking beer bellies. They look like they haven't showered in a week and a half. And they're out there and they're acting like, yeah, man, aren't I genetically superior to minorities? What the fuck are you talking about? You look like a joke. But look, on some level, maybe it all makes sense because that's projection. You take a guy like that and you show that guy pictures of whatever, NBA athletes or NFL athletes in their prime, and they're like, dang, why can't I have a six-pack and get all the women? And they're getting all the white women too. It's fucked up, man. I'm genetically superior. Give me another beer, would you? And so it's projection on some level. They feel insecure and inferior, so they lash out and they're like, no, we're superior. Totally. And Robert E. Lee was right. I should have the right to own you. Aren't I such a strong, intelligent person? Imagine thinking Richard Spencer is smart. Imagine thinking Richard Spencer is smart. The alt-right douchebag. You have to be a special kind of sad to think that guy's got it nailed. 2017, United States of America, this is where we're at. Imagine if these guys ever experienced actual oppression. They're not even experiencing oppression, but they're the biggest snowflakes in the world, and they're like, oh my God, I'm taking down my statue. Oh, my feelings are hurt. I'm so triggered by your microaggression. Keep the statue up. You make me feel better. I blame all the minorities. Kick out all the minorities. I need to be the only voice in the room again.